Hi, my name is Amy Paretsky. I'm the chair of the Design Review Committee, and this is our December 16th, 2021 meeting of the Design Review. This open meeting of the Design Review Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of June 16, 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Design Review Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Design Review Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Diana Nicholas?
Here.
Lisa Maselli?
Yeah.
Dave Varon?
Here.
Dario Damari?
Here.
Okay, Amy Paretsky is here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kathy Joubert?
Yep, here.
And I think Bob's coming, but he's not in.
Yeah, I think he will be joining us, Amy.
Okay. Some ground rules. The chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call vote. It is now 9:10, and first on our agenda is 87 Hudson Street. But Kathy, I think you wanted to say a couple things first.
Yes, as Jim brings in the team for 87 Hudson Street, Amy and I had a like a midnight exchange last night, and I just want to let everyone know that the site plan that I sent out last night, that you are in no way expected to have looked at it, digested it, be ready for it today. And then I had commented to Amy that was the first site plan, but that was my error. When I came in this morning just to make sure I had all the materials lined up for the meeting, I realized that there was a site plan that Mr. Reardon had sent to me about a week ago, and I had not sent that out to everybody. So I just quickly sent that out this morning, as I said in my email, minutes before your meeting. So there's no expectation from staff or the applicant that you would have even looked at those. And just to remind everybody, when we do these meetings, there's multiple meetings. It just doesn't happen in one meeting. They're preliminary, they're advisory, they're informal. Typically when we met in person, we literally were just like around the table as if we were, sitting around a drafting table in someone's office, all hands on looking at one set of plans. So a little bit different now with it being Zoom, but I just wanted to, let you all know that I recognize that I just sent you out those site plans. You're not going to be, there's no expectation that you would have them for today or be ready to look at, to speak to them today. And usually the first meeting is just about, getting an overview from the applicant. They will probably show the site plan, just familiarize yourself, familiarize you with the site, and then also mainly talk about, what it is that they are wanting to do with the site. You know, and in this particular case, it's taking down a building and taking down an existing house and building a duplex. And yeah, we got that. Okay. Michelle had just given me something about the meeting, but it's about everyone that was in the waiting room. Thank you, Michelle. So anyways, I just wanted to let everyone know that you know, there were materials sent to you, you know, previous to last night and this morning. And that's pretty much what we're going to concentrate on, is about the, you know, renderings of the proposed duplex. You're mute. Oh.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. So the first on the agenda is 87 Hudson Street, preliminary discussion. Who will be presenting for the application? Okay, all right, Tom, would you like to?
Sure. I'll start with an overview. So 87 Hudson Street is in the RC district. There is an existing brick structure, brick house and detached garage. Dates from the 1890s. It hasn't been occupied in over 10 years. I sent some photographs of the existing building. Because of its age, it will have to be reviewed by the Historic District Commission because of its age, and they have a review process. So this is the side elevation. Thanks, Kathy. So the building site is conforming to the dimensional regulations of the RC zone for duplexes. So it has 177 linear feet frontage, 30,000 square feet of area. We are not asking for any waivers or variances for this project. If you have, Kathy, do you have any of the site plans available? You're muted.
Okay, hopefully, are you seeing the site plan on the screen?
We're seeing a photograph of the existing brick house.
Oh, okay. I just went to the,
Kathy, I can go to the site plan if you want.
okay, because it's up on my screen, but not sure why it's not up on.
Diana always comes to save the day.
Right. Somebody needs to quit unsharing then, I think, Kathy.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Okay. Give me a second. Yeah.
Yeah, now it is. Thanks, Diana.
Diana, can you go back to number 1? Yeah. Okay. This is the existing site plan. So you see the brick house, which is obviously non-conforming. It's over the setback lines and a detached single-story garage. Now, as you look at the grades, the site slopes from Hudson Street to the rear going north, and it changes in elevation. So it's about 258, 257 near the street. And we're proposing the floor elevation about 262.5. So we're proposing to remove these two structures. Because of the grades, we took the opportunity to make a linear massing of the duplex so we don't go into the hillside that much and cause a lot of disturbance. So if you can go to 2, so you can see the footprint of the duplex falls pretty much left to right in about the same location from the street as the house. The existing garage is obviously further behind. So what this allows us to do is stretch out the building left to right rather than going deep into the site. Also, because of the width of the frontage, we're able to put the garage entrances on the sides and the garage doors aren't facing the street. So the linear massing and the narrowness of the building components keeps the building height down, and we don't have to look at garage doors. So if we could go to 3, I know you haven't seen this yet, but the back of the site, you can see we're going to do some grading to create some outdoor space and some planting on the height on the back side. And we have some planting proposed, which Dave hasn't had a chance to look at that in detail, but that's the general layout.
This is Randy Waterman from WDA. We're the design engineers and landscape architects. Just to follow up on what Tom said, the setback in this zone is 30 feet for the front yard. The existing house just leans over that slightly in the front corner. So as we looked at placing this new structure on here, we wanted to try and push it back a little bit further if we could, but we're trying not to cut into that slope any more than we have to. So the building, as it's shown on this current site plan, the front face of the house is about 41 feet from the street line. The front porch is about 33 feet from the street line. So we pushed it back as much as we could without having a major site work effort in the back. So the slopes in the back of the house, where we are showing some excavation, we've cut that at 2.5 to 1 instead of 2 to 1. So it's not so steep, but we're calling out for a ground cover on that entire slope. And we've got landscape shrubs proposed at the back edge of that, where we would tie back into the existing woods. And most of those are chokeberry that's proposed, and also some other viburnum, but there's, over 60 plants on that back slope in the top corner. And then out in the front, there's a small landscape island that we're showing that's probably about it's 60 feet or so long, but we've got a number of different rhododendron chokeberries in that area. And we really didn't want to build up too tall just trees and block the view out to the river, sort of a winter view that you have. There are woods across the street. But so that's why we kept it as shrubs. And there were a couple of sort of larger specimen trees on each corner of the house where the driveway turns to the house. And then let's see, we've got some holly, some rhododendron, and some yews across the front of the house in front of the porch. And the driveways are fairly level. The left side driveway, we kept the leveling area out at the street, right where you tie in, of 3%. And that driveway is only 3.5% is the slope, so it's very level. The right-hand driveway is a little steeper because the street is a little lower than the other side over on the right-hand side. So we, again, kept a 3% grade at the street and up at the garage. And in the middle, it goes to 7% for a short distance, but it's still fairly level. AC units were placed behind the house so you wouldn't see those, as well as the bulkheads. And like Tom says, with this layout, you have the nice porches out front, but you don't see any garage doors. And we did add one lamppost light out at the street on each driveway.
And Randy's also showing some lights over the garage doors. The one on the left is out of place. And we have some recessed lights on the porches, and there'll be one wall sconce at the rear deck. So you have very little light intrusion off the site, if at all, because of the recessed lights. And anything else, Randy?
I should just mention this, the house is connected to town sewer and water, so there's no septic issues here or anything. And we have already talked to Scott over the DPW. We're going to be adding the new water connections, one for each unit, and then the sewer where it comes onto the site, we'd be replacing that sewer with a new 6-inch PVC pipe that to connect to the building. So all the utilities would be underground.
Anyone have any questions regarding the site layout or site plan?
Kathy, did staff have a chance to look at it?
No, I mean, I've reviewed it as far as, when the materials came in, but, as far as, we don't typically for design review, like prepare a memo regarding the site plan that usually goes to whether it's, the zoning board or the planning board. But in general, just my overall comment is
Yep.
the fact that the applicant is working with the site and that those garages are, that was one of the things I just noted personally, that the garage doors are, you know, are going to be not hidden from the street, but I mean on the sides, you're going to be looking at a lovely house, you know, a lovely residential structure, in my opinion. But
as far as, I mean, that's textbook perfect from any design school. That's ideal, what you need and what you want. That's ideal.
Does anybody else on the board have questions, concern?
Can you hear me? Amy?
Yeah, Lisa?
I want to, just a couple of questions on the hill behind. Is it the slope? That's just going to be ground cover. There's not going to be a wall, a retaining wall or anything for that. Is that correct?
That's correct. The behind the slope that we're showing are existing deciduous trees on the slope, and then we're planting the upper edge of that, and then the slope where we have the grading, that's all going to be ground cover, no walls or anything. No.
Okay, so basically you can go up and walk up there if you wanted to stay on the top area and have a picnic or something. There's enough land to do that, right? I've not been out there, so.
Yep. Yep.
Right. And the two trees that look, the larger trees that look like they're the garages,
Yep.
those new plantings,
Those are new. Yes, those are proposed.
and what are they?
Those are red bud. They're called out to be 6 to 8 foot high.
Okay. And for the front grouping with rhododendrons and, aren't those a little tough with salt coming in off the road? It looks like it's pretty close to the road. I mean, I love landscaping out there, but aren't there roadies kind of a, you know, really delicate?
Well, we've got these are on the back side of the island. So the shrubs that are in the front of the island, there are 14 chokeberry called out in the island on the front side. And then we've got the other juniper shrubs, or the larger symbol that you see there, and there's 6 of those. And then sort of on the back side of that are the roadies. So they're not directly out on the edge of the road, but you know, I think at that location, it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, obviously the plow trucks are going straight up and down Hudson, probably at a fairly high speed. So I don't think it would be an issue. Haven't seen that in the past. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, you've got holly in some of the other areas. Maybe holly would be a little bit more
Durable.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I've put on, and roadies are tough, and when they start looking bad, you know, they look bad. But holly's pretty healthy, and if you get the male and female going, they usually, you know, very prolific and a nice covering.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. We've got other holly on here up against the garages, so that I don't think that substitution would be a problem at all. Yeah, it makes sense. Sure.
And okay. The house, what I always like to see is how it is situated to its neighbors on both sides. And I did go and look on Google to see what's going on. And the house on the right side or the south side of the lot
Yep.
appears to be very close to the lot line. When the driveway comes in, are you doing something to give them some privacy or coverage?
Well, that lot is actually owned by this same owner. That's number 91 on the right-hand side as you're standing on the street.
That doesn't mean he'll always own it though, so he doesn't
No,
mind.
but yeah, right now we're showing a bit of grading over on that side again, so we don't have to do retaining walls and other things. So, but it's owned by the same person, so there's no reason to have any easements or anything. So, but we have no plan right now to change that house or do anything to it at this point in time.
And on the right side, on the left side, is that comes in as a driveway on the left side? How close is that building? Or-
How close is that to the lot line? It's about 4 feet off the lot line.
So the other house is close as well.
Let's see. I don't know if I have a dimension to that. I don't have a dimension to the house on that side. It's further away than on the right side, certainly.
But you said 4 feet?
4 feet to the lot line to the driveway. So from the edge of the driveway that we show on this lot, it's 4 feet to the lot line.
You have 4 feet of
And then the
garage.
house is, well, further away from that, definitely.
All right, that's good, because I thought at first it was a house that was 4 feet. Hmm. I do like the fact that the garages are on the sides and they're double door garages, so we're probably looking at some, a nice piece of change for each one of these duplexes. What do they think they're gonna sell them for?
Well, we don't really get into the marketability during design review, but if you look at 399 Hudson Street, the duplex that just was constructed, one is marketed at 700 and the other is at 710.
Okay, so that's, with a 2-car garage, I think you're probably right up there. What are the actual square foot numbers on the units themselves?
These units, the living space is about 2,700 square feet compared to the average size of a house being built today is about 2,600. So we're in that ballpark.
And the garages, do you know?
2-car garages, yeah.
That's not included in that 27 though. What are those?
And they're, let's see, 22 by 22. So,
That's about 484 square feet.
yep.
And because none of this is colored on either side and going down the center, that's all grassed, correct?
Yes, everything other than the slope and the actual shrub plantings is all going to be loamed and seeded.
And looking at some of the other docks, is it going to have metal roofing on the porches?
Well, if you're done with discussion of the site, we will go to the building, but I was just waiting for everybody to finish their site comments.
Yeah, I have some site comments, questions, actually. This is a larger question that I think we, as a design review committee, need to consider. Right now, the proposed guidelines that are not enforced only ask in terms of landscape recommendations that at least 65% of the front yard should be landscaped with native trees, shrubs, or other acceptable plantings, exclusive of walkways or sidewalks. So it seems to me that landscape review, when you get into the actual species involved, is a little bit different on residential properties than it is on commercial properties for a couple of reasons. One is that the owners are going to change more frequently. So, if these are sold, the new people are not, beholden to our decisions on landscape species, right? They can come in and change it, presumably, because they own the unit. So I'm a little bit hesitant on how specific we should be in recommendations for landscape species. I mean, that's something I'm sure we'll talk about more with the review of the guidelines, but it is a different situation than we're dealing with in commercial or industrial landscape review.
And the nice thing that Randy has done is that by keeping the plantings low, and we can take advantage of these front porches so you can see the river, in the winter and the spring, which is an amenity that you don't often find in Northborough. So when you consider your landscaping guidelines, you want to consider the possibility that there are maybe vistas that are medium or long range that you want to preserve. So I think what Randy's done here is great.
One more comment on this is that for me, there's really an equity issue at play. We don't review the landscape of single family residences. And so it seems to me that, because you live in a duplex, your landscape should not be prescribed by anyone just because they're attached to another house. So
I don't
anyway.
agree with that, because usually the associations when you have duplexes, they have an association fee and they take care of some of that stuff. So it's not like you're buying a single piece that you can do whatever you want to on the other side.
But they do vary around town, as we talked about before. They're not all in that situation.
Well,
And again, so the association could decide to do something that is different than what's proposed in this context. So.
Well, I think they've done a great job. I don't even know why we're discussing that part.
Yeah, no,
I
but I
guess I
think
would
in light of the fact that we're about to review the guidelines, it's something we do need to think about in the broader picture of what we are tasked with.
I guess that was my question to you, Diana. Were you talking in specific to this design, or you were talking about the design guidelines? That your comment?
I'm talking about the design guidelines, but I think in this particular context, yes, I think they've done a great job. But while we're looking at this, I just want to raise that for future discussion because it's not something we can hold on to in the same way
Okay,
as we do with commercial design.
I was just trying to figure that out. Do you have any more comments about this site plan?
Not until we get to architectural. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Anybody
Dario.
else, Dario or Dave?
I had just a couple questions. It looks like we're actually doing construction on another property there with the landscaping. Is that correct? On the right-hand side?
Yes, that's the same owner, and so we pushed the grading over there just a little bit, and since it's the same owner, there's no reason to show an easement. You don't generally give yourself an easement, so he's aware of the grading work and is fine with that.
Okay, I'm not sure the process of working on another property for permitting, but that's not what we're here for. The other just question, when we turn in the driveway on the right, and I understand it's the same owner today,
Mhm.
and we don't know, if it's sold tomorrow, you still kind of want to be sensitive to what the neighbor may or may not have to deal with. But pulling in that driveway on the right, the lights would be shining on that house. And the house looks like it might be 8 feet or so from the property line. I can barely see the house in this drawing, but it looks like it's pretty close to the property line. And again, I don't know what rooms are on the side of the house. If they're bedrooms, that's kind of a nightmare. The people are coming home late at night, having the light shine in the windows on the adjacent house. So I don't know exactly right there.
Right, but I guess what I'm showing here is that it's not like you're going to impact the front or a significant amount. I don't know architecturally what's happening back there.
Right, but the lights could shine anywhere on that house, on that side, and will. And that could be bedrooms. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't know that I'd want my neighbor's lights shining on my house every time they came in. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I don't know how it would, if you're driving this way though, how it would hit this part of the house directly.
It will hit it for sure. You can put a car
Yeah,
there.
it will appear.
Okay, so it's just a comment, and it looks like the reason we're doing it, which seems to make sense as well, it looks like there's a little bit of a swale that we're trying to avoid right at the edge of the road. So it's just a thought. Could there be vegetation? Could the curve be less extreme? Again, I don't know, but if I'm a neighbor, I wouldn't want that. Period. I just don't want a light shining on my house every time people come home, especially at night. The only other, and I do hats off to the garages facing sideways. I think that's awesome. It requires a little more paving, but it's great to not have to look at the garage doors. So, great job on that. And the only other question I have is when you're pulling out of the drives, the roadies, and then again, it doesn't matter what plan it is, but they're high enough where I'm not sure if they would obstruct the view when you're trying to pull out into traffic or not. So and that would be for you guys just to look at so that you can actually see when you're entering Hudson Street.
Yeah, we pulled the island back off, so the island's almost 10 feet. The beginning of it is almost 10 feet off of the street, but we didn't push it all the way out to the lot line. We tried to keep it back a little bit for that exact purpose.
Perfect. That's great.
And most of the stuff in there is not really tall.
Right. But no, and that's I'm just throwing it out there. And if it's that far back, then that's perfect as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not sure, and I'm brand new at this. This is actually my first DRC. So if I'm saying really stupid things, I apologize.
No, not at all. Not at all. They're all good comments.
And the only other question I have is, in most towns, and I don't know the standard here, I didn't look it up because it's the first I saw the site plan. Typically, the paving is 5 feet from the property line. Do we have that here or we don't have that here?
The pavement is 4 feet off the lot line in this particular site. But
I don't know what our guidelines are or regs for paving. Is it, most towns it's 5. That's why I'm bringing it up.
No, I don't think they have any setback for the minimum setback from a driveway to a lot line.
Okay, perfect. That's the only question I have.
I agree. At least years ago when I was part of an addition, the driveway could go right up to the property line, driveways and fences. I don't know, Kathy, if you know if that has changed or if that's what you know it to be in Northborough.
No, there hasn't been a change on that.
Okay.
Okay. Dave, do you have any more questions about the site plan?
Nope, I said my piece. I think it's textbook fantastic. The ability to turn those garages was dynamite. It blends itself perfectly with the land. This is textbook 10 out of 10. The issue with the driveway coming in, I think they did the best they could with the swale right there. If the owner who owns both of these properties on the right feels that he needs to put some shrubs, given the 4 feet's not enough room to do anything on the side of that we're talking about with the duplex here. If he wants to put some on his own side, he can do that. It's going to be up to him. Otherwise, I think this is fantastic. It's dynamite.
Okay. For me, the only question I had is when I went on the GIS map, the lot is 20,000 square feet, not 30. Has there been another piece purchased? I know it's owned by the same person, but I think there'll have to be a new A&R done up.
Correct.
Has there been?
The A&R is not done. As we show on this plan, you can see the dash line that crosses behind the slope. And so the existing lot is just about half an acre. And so that's that dash line is the back of the existing property. Our client owns the 13-acre parcel behind this. And so we've shown on here with the new dimensions, the land area that would be added to this lot to make it just over 30,000 square feet. And so there is a note on the plan that says that we will have to do that as an A&R plan with the planning board. And that would be one of the next steps, one of the remaining permits.
Okay. All right. That was really the only site plan question that I had that hadn't been covered yet. So if everybody's okay, we can move on to the house design.
So the top elevation is the front facing Hudson Street. And as I said in my design statement, I'm working with what is known as the I House with this temple front. It's more popularly known as the American Farmhouse. And I drove around Northborough on the main older neighborhoods, and there are dozens of these temple front houses appearing between 1806 all the way up to 1910. The basic massing is very similar, even though there are different stylistic changes as you go through different historic and architectural styles. So if you look at the gable, two-story gable, where the front door is, I've used a module of about 22 feet wide for that gable. Also, the garage is 22 feet. The main house components are 44 by 22. So there's a 1-to-2 proportion in both plan and elevation. This is very similar to what you see in many I houses where they have a proportioning system of 1-to-2 or 3-to-5, which is the golden section. I've also used that proportioning in the double hung windows. So they're 2.5 feet wide by 5 feet tall. So that's a 1-to-2 proportion. The muttons are also a 1-to-2 proportion. The columns are at like a 9-to-1, and take the diameter of the column times 9, that gives you the height. So that's a proportioning system that's very common in classical tradition, the vernacular. In terms of the siding, we're using clapboards and some board and batten. And so those are some of the elements from the traditional vocabulary of the iHouse. What is different, what makes it a more of a contemporary use of that same vocabulary, is that we've doubled windows in some areas, which is not characteristic of traditional design. We have attached garages, which traditional iHouses would not have because they predated the automobile. They probably didn't use patterning of the siding like this, which is more of a contemporary use of the materials available. They would have probably had a uniform siding throughout. But the siding would be probably a cement board or a composite. The roof material, we are thinking of possibly using a standing seam metal roof on the front porches, and then possibly a regular 30-year, 40-year architectural shingle on the main roofs. That's kind of open discussion. I did a couple of renderings and a model. I don't know, do you have those available?
I'm not sure I've opened those. Let's see.
I haven't seen them.
Okay, well, here's the model.
Okay.
So this shows you a black and white version. The renderings I sent to Kathy are done with various grades of gray. This is the gable end, the rear sides. You can kind of see the use the symmetry and proportioning both in the roof plan as well as the elevation.
I think I have Tom.
Do you have the call? Okay, yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, there are two of those.
Okay.
So what we're proposing is we're not committing to a specific coloration, but we did a couple possible views. Here's one with say a dark gray siding with white accent in the middle at the tall gables with a darker roof. And do you also have the option A? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, here's another option where so we might use like a standing seam metal on the porches and then regular asphalt shingles on the other. So we are just saying that the type of coloration is not determined yet, but these are the directions we're leaning at this time. You know, grays, whites, and dark gray or black. So any questions on this?
I guess, I'll ask just a couple. It's hard to see, there's no shadows on the rendering, so it's hard to see the depth, but the model you had, I think, would probably answer a lot of the questions just to physically see, because a lot of the iHouses will have, just rakes and returns and a little more detail on the eaves and gables, where it looks like they are popping out a little bit more to give it some three-dimensionality, if you will, or just a little more character, which it looks like it's doing. And the only question I have, and it's funny, iHouses are, from where I was born and raised, a lot of them out in the Midwest is where they were really prevalent at one point in time, are the smaller windows, which I don't see on any elevations of the historic, the half windows, if you will. I think the proportions of the normal windows are great. But the half windows are, you know, a little sparse, for a better choice of words. Maybe, you know, those, I don't know if they're bathrooms or whatever, you're trying to not, you know, hit stuff on the inside or what's going on, but certainly the garage window might be able to at least come down. Just, I don't know, they just look a little poke out. The model, the 3D model you have, that you had in your hand, looks much better because you can see the depth, you know. So I think in the real world, it's probably better looking than the elevations, because without shadows, it's, you know, it could be a complete plane, but I can see it's not, which I think is good. And then the only other question, which may go back to the site plan, is we have these stairs that come down. Is there a sidewalk or pavers or anything other than landing on the grass, or we don't know that?
We would probably be adding some sidewalks that loop over towards the garage.
Yeah, that would make sense, just so you have access to it without slipping in the mud. And sorry to go backwards, but I all of a sudden was looking at that, and I think going to the drive would be, or the garage would be best, because then you keep it available to the public, but you're not bringing that much more concrete out or asphalt to the street. But just to be able to get out, whether it's, you know, bluestones or whatever you want, just to have something to land on after the steps. Yeah, you can see the depth here more, the three-dimensionality here on the site plan. And then the question I have is, on the building on the left, there's a pop out, and the building on the right, there isn't. Is there something going on there that's different?
You mean at the front entry?
Yes.
It was just showing the client an option if they wanted to create something of an airlock at the front door or not. You know, same with the second floor plan. If we can reduce the 4 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. I mean, we're just trying to build in some flexibility and see what the response is in terms of marketing.
Makes
But
sense.
I made the front porch deep enough to accommodate that, because not that you would come and go very often from your own front door, but, you know, guests would obviously come through there, and you might want to prevent the winter airs from blowing through the main living space.
How deep is the porch?
Pardon me?
How deep is the porch?
It's 8 feet.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, got like benches on either side if they chose to make some seating there, but we were just trying to.
And Tom, that's a real porch. It's
You can sit on it.
usable porch. The
Well,
6
we have
feet porch,
views, so that, yeah.
it's a big deal to have stuff that actually works. You know, and I see positives, and you know, it looks a little plain in some of the designs, but the porch, the garage is on the side. An 8-foot porch, the 2 feet is huge, and you know, not that it matters, but when we had our house was built here in North Road, the first thing I did was extend the porch. So you can actually put a chair there and sit down, and people can walk around, and you can use it, as opposed to a cosmetic glue-on, if you will. The real porch is a big deal, and it speaks to a lot of what we're looking at with the master plan implementation, everything else, trying to get a little more of a front porch society. So hats off to you for that.
Thank you. So regarding the windows, Dario, there are some diagonal sight lines on the elevations that determine the bottoms of the windows coming off the roof and so forth. And you're right, the smaller windows are in garages and bathrooms and closets. So that's one area where we are diverting from the traditional iHouse vocabulary, is by mixing in a smaller sash window, kind of designates a different use on the inside. The larger windows are the larger habitable rooms. The small windows indicate service rooms like closets and bathrooms and so forth. So it's not an attempt to recreate a historic style, but work within the tradition.
Yeah, it just, there's something, say the 4 windows in the middle, they just look sparse, and it maybe to your point, you do a little bit with the siding or something to not have it look like a 1960 poke out, you know, subsidized housing thing. It's just a little bit sparse. On the top one, it's great because the bottom, you've got, you know, the big windows on the, you know, the front. And I guess the rear doesn't matter as much, you know, the little guys in the back. But anyway, that's it. They're not, you've got a lot more going on in the front, which I think works. Maybe the 2 end garage windows are the only ones that make sense to extend, and maybe they don't. That's really your call.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else on the committee have any comments?
Amy?
Lisa? Yep.
Are you going to come back with a coloring rendition of what you propose on the roof and walls, and is the metal roof, if the metal roof is put in, is that going to be black to match the black of the roof? Is it only going to be on the front porches and not the back porches?
Well, we're looking to get approval for a general coloration. I need to work more with my client to see whether he wants just the standing seam metal on the front porches or he wants to do it on the entire building. But if you say either way is fine, we would take that as an instruction. We are looking at using whites, grays, and blacks, or dark grays as our color scheme. If that general scheme works, that's fine. We'll work within that. I don't know if the design review committee wants to be in the business of choosing colors for houses. You know, if you say, okay, this general palette of colors is fine, then we will take it from there.
And are the windows, are they white or black?
White.
But you'll be coming back with something once you talk to the owner, is that correct?
If the committee insists that we have a final rendering of what the coloration should be, we will do that. But we would prefer to have a general approval of this color palette we're working with, rather than saying, all right, this is French gray #2. You know, do we have to go there? Is
Well,
what I'm asking.
We've usually seen a piece of the material and the colors, so I would like to, I don't know how the other members feel.
Amy, if I could just,
Black or white.
sorry, Diane, if I could just
Okay.
add in the, you know, this particular applicant and also the applicant that was here for 399 Hudson Street, you know, they're in uncharted territory in that the design review guidelines for, you know, 2 families were never completed by the consultant, and we can either talk about that you know, shortly, and I know people have to you know, eventually leave. It's almost 10 o'clock now, but so on one hand, you know, this applicant 399, and then the applicant actually that this group worked with for Lincoln Street, you know, we're working without, or are working without design guidelines, and so they're a little bit of a disadvantage there. And then the board too is at a little bit of a disadvantage in that you don't have guidelines completed yet to say, you know, this is what we're recommending, you know, for, you know, A, B, and C. But on the other 2 duplexes that, well, actually it was 3 in total, what you had as a committee had just said was you didn't specifically ask for a color scheme, but like on 399 Hudson Street, I think the recommendations from the board reads that they're, in neutral tones or earth tones to be used on the duplex. And then I forgot how it was worded for Lincoln Street, which has, obviously since been withdrawn, but just so that, a little bit of a history there as far as what you have asked for in the recent past.
Well, I remember Lincoln Street did discuss colors.
Yeah,
So,
you discussed colors on Hudson Street too, but I'm just saying you didn't specifically tell them what colors it had to be. And but again, I think the applicant said that they're willing to come back, with once they've chosen colors. But if everyone is in agreement with this sort of color palette, that gives them, kind of marching orders to go forward to, move along with this design.
And I guess, I'm sorry.
I mean, my question for asking is just because these renderings that we get are, they're a little on the vague side, and I don't think it's asking too much to see coloring. We've asked it for other duplexes, and now we're putting all this emphasis on not having a design guideline set up. Well, I thought we've been using this in the past before this guidelines came before us to be final. Have we never used them in the past?
No,
We've reviewed many things without renderings just because it is costly to the owner to pay to have renderings done. I think that what Tom did is an example of how you can show the sort of feel of the color palette. And so we've had a lot of cases, to your point, Lisa, where we've had elevations and then we've gotten colors and materials, to look at in person. And so we were able to understand what the elevation would look like with those colors. But I think it's not necessarily, I think it's asking a lot in some cases for people to actually generate renderings. They are time consuming and expensive. And then if we ask people to make more changes and they have to go through that process again, you have to remodel and you have to re-render to make changes to those images. So.
Well, I thank you for that, but I still feel that we should do something a little bit more than, okay, just do what you like and it's fine. I think that's
But we
why
do have prescribed drawings though, right?
we're here to discuss, and I don't think I'm not even telling them what colors to use. I'm just asking to see it. So I don't have, and I'm only a person, one on the committee, so you all can make up your decisions.
Well, that's why we did options A and B as plus the model. So there's 3 schematic palettes for the exterior coloration of the building. White siding with a dark roof, light gray siding plus white siding and dark roof, and a dark gray siding. So those are the areas that we are investigating with my client. And when he gives me a final blessing on which way he wants to go, we could submit that.
Well, and this is Dario. I think the colors that you're talking about, number one, I don't think we should be at all picking colors. I think it's number one, you can repaint it 2 weeks later. So you put it up and repaint it. I think materials are important, which you pointed out, because materials are a lot harder to change. You're not going to re-roof a house necessarily, not that you can't. But with the grays and the whites and the darks, it sounds fair and reasonable. I think what and I'll just speak on behalf of me. What I would not want to see is some shocking pink something or other, or bright purple, because then we'd say, hey, can you tone it down a little bit? But other than that, the colors that you're talking about certainly seem fair and reasonable. And to your point, I don't know that we have to have tawny beige 3.6. Everything seems like we're doing the right thing, which is fundamentally what at least I try to do here and help out. So It doesn't seem like there's any outrageous things going on. And then if we got shocked by something, I don't know if there's ever a chance to see what it is, but all I'd ever want is a power of veto. If there was something crazy, it's going to be red and yellow every other clapboard. Well, maybe we don't want that, you know. So, and I don't think you're proposing that, to your credit.
No, this is pretty fairly muted
Yeah.
in a palette that is very well established in New England and Northborough. I mean, if you go up
Yeah.
and down Hudson Street, you're going to see a lot of whites and grays and dark roofs. So I think we're well within the regional, local vocabulary.
And I think that's really, that seems fair and reasonable. That's what I don't, and again, don't want to disagree necessarily with Lisa, but I don't think we need to see exact colors. If you do what you say you're going to do, it seems like it would be fine. I think what we're here trying to stop is just something, outrageous that, and if you wanted to make it bright pink and yellow, we'd want to know why. Because there'd have to be a real reason, and people would buy into it and say, no, it's going to be a toy store and we want it to stand out and look happy and make people smile because there's toys in it. But I think from the colors you're telling us, they're pretty conservative, and it's, as long as you stick with that, I'm okay on my end with that. And if there's some way to show color without renderings, you can do that too and say, here's 4 color chips, we're going to be in that range, and that's, then you don't have to spend a bunch of money on renderings. And I do try to be sensitive to the clients because I sit in your seat as well.
Well, we
So
certainly provide chips of colors that my client approves and submit those.
That would be the cheapest, easiest way. So at least, but from what I'm hearing, I don't have a concern. But if someone wants to see them, that may be the best way to do it. Is to say, here's the paint samples, and everybody can get access to any of the paint chips, just so people are comfortable. I'm comfortable, but I understand there's concern because I've been hoodwinked in the past too when people say stuff. I'm not at all saying you're trying to do that. You've been there a long time and try to do the right thing, so I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I have a couple other comments architecturally.
Sure.
So the tradition of the single window, actually, I've been doing my research. By the way, this is in our guidelines as a reference, and it is a seminal book on American architecture. So I looked up the iHouses and I learned more. And in fact, in Newbury, for instance, there is a house built in 1696 that's considered an iHouse that does have double windows, but there are also several that have a more sparse layout of windows, and some of them are small and squarish, as you have in the rear there. So I'm okay with that elevation. There's another comment I had about the windows. Well, just generally, I think that, so again, what I've gleaned in reading this is that the New England style of iHouse is more minimal than what you'll find in the South. Those are more Victorian in nature. And what Tom has done is more on the New England side of the tradition. I really appreciate the lengths that you've gone to do a 1 to 2 module. It's all over the place. That's hard to do. So I think this would be an attractive addition to Hudson Street.
Also, the trim, the side casing is 2.5 inches and the head casing is 5 inches, just to show how obsessive I am.
That's
But
impressive.
the other thing is the New England tradition of the iHouse in this Spartan simple view is counter to the gable-itis that we see that's taken over contemporary house design, where you have these applied gables everywhere, whether they have any function or not. So this is a statement against that trend, where you can go back to our vernacular traditions and work within it and get a strong, elegant, pleasing design without you know, playing tennis without the net, as Robert Frost used to say about free verse. So
And
I'm
it's form
playing,
follows function, right?
sorry.
It's form follows function.
Well, I'm from the function follows form side of the fence.
But the form does follow the function on this one, because what I'm saying is that the gables function, and thus the form is honest in what it's presenting, as opposed to a gable that's attached to the roof that no one can access.
I agree.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I just have a couple comments. Are you finished, Diana, or did you have any more comments?
I am finished.
Okay, thanks. I guess my only comments were, I'm okay with the color palette and maybe seeing the chips. My concern when I first saw the metal roof was color scheme, because I think like a gray or a roof that would match. You see the red metal roofs and like that would be crazy. And I'm sure you're not going to do that. So if it's going to be grays and darks and you decide to do the metal roof, I'm sure we'll all match. As far as windows, the smaller windows on the bottom floor did stand out to me too. And if I was purchasing the house, I'd rather see the bigger windows. But you know, those are really my only comments.
So
And I think as a board, are we going to go forward and say we choose option A or option B, or we go through and he can choose from option A or option B? This is my first time as the chair of this board and going through duplex design, so I'm not sure what's been done in the past. Is it up to us to choose option A or option B, or he can use either one and go forward?
Amy, if I could,
Sure.
not everyone presents, a couple of options. So I think, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but I think he's also presenting these option, the option A and B to his client. And I don't know that his client has chosen which one they want to go with either. But in the past, if the board did prefer something over the other, they would inform the applicant about that. But again, it's all advisory. So if for whatever reason, their design aesthetics, their client, the budget, if one was chosen over the other, there generally wasn't an objection from the design review committee.
And I'll voice in on that too. And I think, Kathy, to your point, if one was drastically different and we despise the other, we would probably would have all said that. I think these are close enough, at least from my perspective alone, that I would let the client make that decision. They're very similar. They're trying to do the same thing and do that. And I don't, unless we felt really strongly, I wouldn't want to pick because they're close enough. I'd rather have the architect and the owner pick, because they're not so different that one of them is just, oh my God, that's a superstar killer, and the other one's plain Jane. I think they're close enough where, at least in my opinion, run with the one that makes the most sense for you, the client. And I do think, again, the garage windows should be longer, at least the one on the end, to give it an end, but that's 100% opinion. There's nothing about that's, a showstopper in my end either.
So I was going to suggest there is a new building in Westboro designed by Dan Lewis. I think it's called Release, or it's a spa on Oak Street. And he uses some light gray and white. And he also painted the soffits a light blue. And I thought that was really attractive. So if you're near this health spa on Oak Street in Westboro, that's a handsome mixture of neutral grays, whites, and a blue soffit. I thought that was pretty nice take on the New England tradition.
Just one quick question, Tom. Is the only difference the metal roof? What is the difference between option A and option B?
Well, there's different color of gray on the siding.
Okay, so it's color.
Yeah, like a lighter gray on the lower body, and then the standing seam roof. He may decide to put the standing seam roof on all the roofs. I mean, that's what we have discussed. So, Dario's point is let the client decide, and we will run that by you with paint chips and some selections. But if you're comfortable with this vocabulary, we'll take it from there.
Okay, I was just curious for the untrained eye what the difference was. It's mostly color and the roof,
Pretty
metal
much.
or not metal.
Right.
Okay. Those are all my only questions. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, since this was the first time seeing the site plan, I don't think there will be any more questions, but if people want to have time to review it, I don't know how we want to go forward with this, Kathy. Do we want one more meeting, or is everybody fine the way it is? Usually it goes through 3 meetings, but it seems like we've covered most of it. But
We do
since
have-
we only got some of the designs right before the meeting, maybe we should meet one last time just to make sure nobody else has any questions.
So typically when we've met 2 or 3 times, it's because there's something that's unresolved. And I don't think we have anything that's unresolved, because we've agreed that the color scheme in principle, or some of us have agreed in principle that will be fine. So I'm not sure what, if they come back, they're going to come back with the same materials. And are we going to go through all of these drawings again as a
I
group?
definitely wouldn't. My main point was we got the site plan within minutes of the meeting. And we had discussed at the beginning of the meeting that we weren't expected to review it before, and we would have more than one meeting. So I just wanted to see if anybody else wanted more time to review the site plan or would have any other questions. Or if nobody else has any questions, we could take a vote to move forward and not go back and review the site plan. I know the site plan will come up again in front of the planning board. So if there are any site questions, Fred will review the plan, and as this is advisory, changes could be made at the planning board side.
I'm fine.
I don't know that maybe everything's
You're fine.
resolved in Diana's mind. I'm not convinced that the lights hitting the neighbors, the sidewalks not being drawn, or the long windows have been resolved. But that's just one person's opinion.
I mean, if there's something minor like those, we also in the past have said, hey, you know what, draw it in, shoot it across in a quick email, and we're done. Instead of kind of trying to make a big meeting and getting everybody together, because those are very minor things. And that's something that can be done very rapidly. And just with an email, hey, great, there's no major anything outstanding here. And I'm cool with that. And, moving on.
Yeah. We do a lot of contingent.
I don't think with
approvals.
the meeting law, we can do that.
Well, you can, in the sense that you document in the meeting minutes, this is approved following, confirmation that A, B, and C has been done, and that can be done via email. You can do that in public meeting law. I go to design reviews quite frequently, and then, that is an acceptable means of approval. As long as the minutes clearly cover what we are expecting.
And that assumes they want to do it. Tom may say, hey, I don't want to make the windows longer. And I think that's really his choice. Because I think we're here to recommend, not mandate. And if it's contingent upon him lengthening the garage windows, they would have to agree to that. And I don't know that they want to agree to it. And so I don't know. This is my first round at this. So I apologize for that. But ultimately, I think if it's not something just just grossly wrong or dangerous, I'd like it to fall back on the owners and the architects.
Dario,
I
you
totally
already-
agree. I was just stating that as a process that we can provide a contingent approval, but I don't think that we have any items that are strong enough. on this one.
You're the most.
Kathy?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, given that, even though, you know, Dario's participating at a level like he's been here for years, which is wonderful. Seriously, it's refreshing too. But you know, given that, I don't think it's burdensome to ask the applicant to just come back one more time. You know, it might be a 20-minute discussion, you know, not an hour discussion, but just to, you know, see if they will consider, you know, adding the sidewalks. Let them consider, you know, the various comments that people have made about windows, and then about color choices, and you know, and just ask them to go back and think about it. If they make some changes to the site plan, then, you know, they can get that, you know, to us, and you know, and right here you can set up another meeting. I know, Amy, you had talked about, and Diana too, we've talked about this like in fits and starts, and it would be wonderful to have a standard meeting, you know, a once a month meeting. And then if you don't need it, then, you know, obviously we don't schedule it, but to have a reoccurring meeting that everybody can put in their calendar. And, you know, if you know, so however you want to handle that, Amy, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have them come back one more time, just to, you know, just to revisit a couple of these, you know, outstanding questions that some of the members have.
Yep, I agree. I actually would like to, you know, I haven't looked at the site plan, or if Fred has looked at the site plan. Can the driveway be moved, or does that swale have to be there? Is it on groundwater? I don't know the reason for it being there.
Oh, the
So
swale,
maybe
the swale that's
Well-
existing there?
whatever is on the right driveway that causes it to have to come in at an angle. So there are lights shining on the house next door. Can that be
Randy,
changed?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, Randy can address that, yeah.
Yeah, basically what happens is the driveway, if we came from the garage straight out to the street, the driveway is shorter, so it approaches 10%. And so just we don't like to go that high if we don't have to. So just by sliding the driveway over, we're about 25 feet or 30 feet off the lot line. By sliding it over, we made it long enough so that the most grade we have is 7% in the middle, just for a short distance. So that's really the reason we pushed it over and didn't make that one straight. So you know, it doesn't look the same as the other one, obviously, but that was the reason. The road, Hudson Street at this lower end is 1.5 feet lower than the high side. So it's basically just push it over, makes it a little longer, and so we can keep the grades flatter. That was our preference. But we can look at it. I mean, there are some vegetation once you start to get up to the side of the yard there. So let us look at that. It sounds like there's a couple of things that you want us just to get a little more info on. So we'll look at that. There could be a few trees or shrubs in that area that we can just, you know, note them on the plan and save them. So we'll look at that.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. So I guess next we can meet again, and we'll talk about adding sidewalks, talk about the windows, the colors like Kathy mentioned, and the driveway. Does anybody, I think we already came to a conclusion we were going to pick. Was it Tuesday mornings? We had all decided that there was a date that worked for all of us, and now it's been so long.
But it
Tuesday
was
or
a
Thursday
specific
morning?
Tuesday. I can't do every Tuesday. The ones that you had recommended.
definitely.
Were like, yeah. So I
I'll have
could
to
do
go
that.
back and look.
Yeah, I
It was
can't remember
once a
either.
month, and possibly, yeah, I think it was once a month, but I can go back and check my previous emails, and we can send that out to everybody. Because I think we already went through this whole process of finding a date that worked for everybody.
It doesn't matter, it's now. So, I mean, let's just go now forward, because Tuesdays was then, childcare moves, things move. I have young kids, other people have young kids. As of right now, I can tell you, let's just pick a day and go forward, because, I have my son Monday, Tuesdays. As of now, Tuesdays don't really work well for me. So
Okay, well, Tuesdays don't work well for you. What worked for you, Diana and Aria and Lisa?
Friday's honestly probably my best chance.
Friday is usually the worst for me, but I can make it work until summer hits.
For Thursdays are also better than Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If Thursday is good for people, I don't know.
I prefer Thursday.
Thursday's good for me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Could we fit it in this month before Kathy leaves us?
I'm available. the rest of the month.
You,
Yeah.
I mean,
Next
you do-
Thursday, the 23rd.
yeah, you do, I mean, if you wanted to do that, we could do the 23rd.
Randy, how does that, you think that's workable?
Yeah, I think we could certainly reply. I'll be traveling that week, so I won't be around, but I could either have our landscape architect involved in discussion, or we can certainly get any tweaks and get back to the group very, very quickly. So that won't be a problem getting the information back to you.
All right, I mean, you could also look at the 30th, which is a Thursday, and again, I mean, I know, we're right smack into Christmas and New Year's, and I know a lot of people take time off, and, but if the 30th is helpful at all to people, or I can just go ahead and schedule it for the 23rd at 8 or 9.
I'm open, doesn't matter.
I prefer 9. I'm not, I've got some other things going on now earlier. So 9 o'clock on a Thursday, but I don't know that I would be able to make the 23rd, so you can probably have the meeting without me.
I can do 8 or 9 that day.
And Jim, I don't know if you're listening, but would you be available to host next Thursday, the 23rd?
Yes, I should be available. I'll check my schedule now, but
Okay.
it should be all set. Yeah.
Okay,
Does the 30th work? Because the 23rd is actually harder for me too. I don't know.
The 30th, I'm away, so I would prefer not to.
Next week, with school vacation, well, actually, they go out, next week, I'm flexible next week more so. I could be flexible next week. I have some coverage next week.
I would say if we did the 30th, the agenda would only be this. I wouldn't want to do a
Right.
whole guidelines review because I don't think we're going to get to that today either. But
Right.
if it's a quick one on the 30th, then I could probably do it. But otherwise,
Can't do the 30th.
yeah, the 23rd, I think sounds like it's a better option for most people. So, the Lisa, you're going to check.
all right, so if we do the 23rd at 8 that day, Lisa, I know you prefer 9, but you're not available on the 23rd, right? Okay, so.
I won't be able to make 8. I mean, I might be able to make 8:30, but I know I won't make 8.
Okay, well, I just know that in the past, we were using 8 because then everyone just heads to work, after an hour. So you want to say 8:30 that day?
Yeah, I could make 8:30. I can't make 8.
Okay. Okay, and then, so while Jim is double checking on that, 2 things, and I know everyone, including myself, has to go. I've got another meeting, but I'm going to leave. Well, I guess if people have not heard yet, I am retiring from the town of Northborough, and my last day is actually next week. No, 2 weeks, December 31st. And I'm working right up until then. So we'll get as much done as we can. But as far as the 2 family design guidelines, my thoughts on that is, I mean, we have a draft set. there's still some money that is owed to the consultant that I have in reserve. That I just need to confirm with her that she's still willing to, if there's changes and tweaks and so forth that you all want to make. So I'm gonna do that over the next couple of days. Is just getting back in touch with her. But there's a there's a file, of course, I'm leaving for the next town planner, and part of that is going to be this unfinished design review guidelines. But I also just wanted to say in general that I have thoroughly enjoyed working with the design review committee. It's been years and years and years that we've had a design review committee. It's been a great group of people. I've learned so much from especially the architects on the board, and continue to learn. I still write down things every meeting and say to myself, look up, or Google, or just a vocabulary and so forth that I just don't use every day. But I'm sad to go. I'm sad to leave these projects in midterm, but at the same time, someone just hit my door. I'm just, I'm very excited to enter my next phase of whatever that's going to be. But it's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and I so appreciate your volunteering on these boards, because without that we wouldn't have any of this. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
So
Kathy.
Jim, are you okay on the 23rd at 8:30?
Yes, I should be all set.
Okay.
It'll be all set. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'll get that scheduled and send out any revisions that may come our way, to the members, prior to the meeting.
And Lisa and I won't be there. So there's two of us.
Oh, you're not on the 23rd?
Oh, that's what I've been saying. I'm in Syracuse.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just heard Lisa. I'm sorry.
Just want to make sure you know. So it'll be two people, I guess. That's up to you
We'll have
guys.
I think we
quorum,
should
right?
bump it then.
But
I
is
think
three-
we should bump it then.
Okay. To the 30th?
If you can make it, Diana, you said you're on vacation the
Yeah.
30th. Will you be able to?
Yeah. Which I
Okay.
expect it will be, if that's the only agenda item, yeah.
Okay.
All right. And Lisa is not available on the 30th either. Okay, but we'll have Dario on the 30th.
I can do the 30th.
Okay.
Diana.
And Jim, does that work for you?
Are
Sorry.
you okay, Lisa?
I won't, both places I have appointments, so I can't do either, but Dario's a kind of an important figure, I think.
Yes, Kathy. So the 23rd and the 30th will work for me.
Okay. All right. So scratch the 23rd and we'll go for the 30th
We still at 8:30?
at 8:30.
Yeah.
8:30? Okay.
Yep. Okay.
And then we'll
Okay.
have to pick our one day, starting in January, we'll pick one day a month, and Thursdays sounds like it will work for everybody. Is there any difference whether it's the first week, second week, third week, fourth week? On anybody's schedule?
It's the opposite when you have your planning board, so it's not on the same.
Right, it would probably be better to be like the week before the planning board, so it could hit design review and be in time for the planning board. And the planning board is first and third, so if design review met, it really doesn't matter if they meet on the first or the second week.
Yeah.
So we can make the second meeting of the planning board. And the ZBA is at the end of the month.
So try the
So,
second Thursday. That sounds fair enough.
okay, sounds good to me. Second Thursday. And does 8:30 work for everybody? Like, is 8:30 too hard?
Well, between 8:30 and 9, prefer 9, but I had time today to be able to read some of the stuff before we started at 9.
I'm fine with 8:30, and I'm sorry, I have to jump. I have a 10:30 call.
Yeah,
So
okay.
talk to you later. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll set up a reoccurring meeting on the second Thursday at 8:30.
Okay. And since we're gonna meet with the applicant on the 30th, I think we should still meet the second Thursday and talk about the design review if we're gonna go down it. And I also had something to speak about the master plan, but we can add that to the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So we
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you very much. Happy
Thank you very
holidays.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Oh, yeah, happy
I'm back.
holidays to you.
And bye, Randy. And Amy, you just
Bye-bye.
have to do the roll call vote to end the meeting.
So we're not gonna talk. about it.
Right. I just had a quick question once they popped off. Now, I just had a quick question. As chair, is it myself or Jim where the applicant probably should have come off the meeting before we kept talking? Is it my role to take them off the screen, or did Jim, after we're
Well,
done
I mean, you were,
reviewing the application?
yeah, I mean, you were talking about the date, the meeting date with them, you know? So I mean, I think that was fine, because I mean, that involved them. But
Yep.
yeah, usually, bye, Dave.
Here you go.
Okay, usually the applicants take themselves out, you know, they're done, they're done with their presentation, done with the meeting. But, you know, if we see, you know, someone that's lingering or whatever, yeah, Jim can just take them off. Or we can just ask them to,
Okay.
you know, leave the meeting, so,
Okay.
okay?
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I'll take a roll call vote and we'll oh, Lisa
A minute.
has something to say.
I wanted to find out about getting our emails, Kathy. I'd written and asked about that. How do we go?
Yeah, that got, I mean, that's way beyond me. So that David Kane, the IT director, he sent that to the town administrator, that request to the town administrator. So, you know, I'll follow up on it, but I mean, as I intended to, but you know, right now it's been the town's policy that it's just 3 elected boards. So, you know, again, beyond me, as far as who makes those decisions, but the request has been sent to the town administrator.
So I mean, what goes to, because I think, I mean, I don't know how Dario feels. Amy already has one, but I think the fact that, you know, we're in businesses too, and that we open up our email to anybody who's a problem. And I think that it's not that difficult to just open a town email. I don't know what we have to do it. So that's why I asked you to.
Yeah, yep. So the request went, you know, to the appropriate people, and then, you know, we'll just follow up on it.
Okay. So on the
Okay.
so 30th meeting that you're having, you're just going to discuss the applicant, not anything to do with design review or the town or any of that.
Right. Yeah, just a follow up for 87 Hudson.
All right. Well,
That sounds good. Okay, so I'll take a roll call vote to adjourn the meeting. Or do we have to someone has to make a move?
I move that we adjourn.
How do we do it, Kathy? Does someone have to make a
No,
motion?
that's fine. Yeah, Lisa was making a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Lisa?
Aye.
Dario?
Aye.